I think we've got to keep plugging away at everything. You know, like there's so much we can do within our own control, which I think we do very well. And then outside of our control, we've got issues like the fuel price. It's going to go in our favor this year. But then you've got the general economic environment, which up until now I would describe as being pretty good. And in fact, it's not too bad.
Does tariffs affect this industry?
So it will affect us if tariffs are applied to aircraft engines or aircraft engines and parts. So that's going to be an issue, and we're still working our way through that. So there are some tariffs that have been applied, but they're pretty limited at this stage. So I would argue that the impact on the industry is manageable at this stage. But if we're part of a wider tariff war, then yeah, it's going to be a big issue.
And what about an anti-American feeling translating into either Americans not wanting to travel abroad or people not wanting to travel into the United States?
I think that's pretty limited at the moment. You know, it's very noticeable between Canada and the US, and all of the Canadian carriers, I'm sure, have said that to you. Now, it's not that Canadians aren't flying, they are, but they're not flying to the US as much as they would. We're seeing a little bit of softness, but I would say it's not that much. If I was an airline CEO operating on the transatlantic between Europe and North America, I wouldn't be overly concerned.
But the level of unpredictability as we move into the winter season. One airline CEO, when I tried to ask him about how it might be later in the year, looked at me like I was mad because there are so many unknowns.
Yeah, well, you are mad. You know that. You know, like there's no way of
Right.
predicting it. And the window, I think that we look at now is much shorter. You know, when I started as a CEO, which was a long time ago, you know, I'd be looking out 12 months, even sometimes 18 months to try and figure out what was going on. Now you're looking really at 1, 2, 3 months. You know, I don't know of anybody who's sort of trying to predict what's going to happen in 12 months' time. Yes, you'll have a stab at, you know, is it going to be up or down? But the idea that you could have a rational view as to what things will look like, you know, it's just impossible.
Do you still believe there needs to be more consolidation?
Yeah, I think consolidation is a positive, and I think there's scope for consolidation in all parts of the world. So I wouldn't rule out further consolidation in the US industry. I think there's plenty of scope for consolidation within Europe. And don't forget, where it's happened, it's been approved by the competition regulators. You know, they've looked at it and they have assessed that it doesn't have a negative impact on consumers. And what you've got to consider, which I think a lot of people discard, is what happens if the consolidation doesn't take place? Because a lot of the airlines that will be subject to consolidation are weaker in their performance.
Is there enough SAF? You and I talked about this in Athens. Half the industry, the producing industry, says yes, there's no shortage of SAF. It will be available in time. The mandates can be met.
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? I don't believe there is enough SAF. Yeah, and if you talk to airline CEOs, most of them are struggling to get access to SAF, and that's at any price. You know, getting access to SAF at a price that anybody would consider reasonable is impossible. Impossible. So, you know, the market isn't responding as fast as we would have expected it.